In October 1961, 128 American Peace Corps volunteers bravely heeded the call to serve and arrived in the Philippines. Since then, thousands of Americans have traveled halfway around the world to devote 27 months of their life for the toughest job they'd ever love. Peace Corps volunteers in the Philippines work alongside Filipino counterparts to teach students and train teachers, to strengthen organizations working with children, youth, and families at risk, to assist communities in the management and conservation of coastal resources, and through our Peace Corps Response Program to provide specialized skills in core strategic areas of education, youth, environment, disaster risk reduction, and HIV/AIDS. Peace Corps volunteers have assisted in producing meaningful results, not only by enhancing technical competencies, but also in fostering friendships and solidarity through cross-cultural exchange. For 60 years, we have demonstrated resilience, and we've learned to redefine success as we go. Thousands of Filipinos and Americans have been touched by what we call Peace Corps magic.
Hangout space, #ChatUpRealTalk, I'm your host, Germaine Jalandoni de Ruña, and you'll be seeing me here on Chat Up every month as we take on some of the trending issues talked about on social media and other current events. Because here on Chat Up, we take on conversations no matter how difficult or complex, and we ask ourselves, what can we do about it? Here we do real talk, real impact. Last month in September, we talked about championing peace and democracy, and that includes freedom of speech, expression, and open discourse that encourages critical thinking. And so this program is offering us a safe space where we encourage you to chat up and not shut up. And now I invite everyone to engage with us, and let's keep our conversations enlightening, enriching, and even thought-provoking. So feel free to comment on our live stream, send in your questions, share your opinions, and join us in this online program brought to you by Quarantalk Media and supported by the United States Embassy in the Philippines. And also invite your friends to listen in and join in our chat. Share this live stream and use our official hashtags, #ChatUp and #RealTalkRealImpact. So what are we going to talk about tonight in this monthly conversation that we're having? Well, let's find out what's up. Today, October 13th, we are celebrating the International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. This year, the focus is on international cooperation for developing countries to reduce their risks and disaster losses. As you may know, disasters gravely impact low and middle income countries and communities compared with higher income countries. Disasters can immediately cause great threats to health, nutrition, well-being, and education. And so today, we will zero in on how we can build more resilient communities in the Philippines and mitigate risks that come with natural and man-made disasters. So feel free to join this conversation through our comment section. All right, let's dive into today's discussion. Joining us are some of the practitioners in the field of disaster risk reduction and management. Let's call them in. Starting with the co-founder of Disaster Busters, Ms. Karen Lapitan. Next up, we have the department head of San Juan City's Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office. We have with us Saripada Tong Pacasum Jr. And also joining us is the one leading the disaster response operations of the province of Capiz. Let's welcome Capiz Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Officer, Judy Grace Pelaez. Welcome to the show, everyone. Hi po.
Hi, May.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you po for joining us today. Good evening. Thank you po. And again, to our viewers, please feel free to join our conversation via the comment section. We'll take time to read your messages and questions if you have any. Okay po, let's start with our conversation for tonight. So Miss Judy, Miss Karen, and Sir Tong, I have, yung first question ko po is two-pronged. I would like to know what is the state of disaster preparedness in the country? In two aspects po, no? What are we lacking and what aspects do we need to strengthen? I'll start with Miss Judy.
As of this time po, for me, the Philippines, as of now, in terms of disaster preparedness, we are still on the process of institutionalizing our disaster risk reduction and management. As you can see, previously we are onto response, but now we are onto disaster risk reduction and management that is shifting from being responsive to being proactive. But for now, we know that not all our local government units and even our stakeholders and partner agencies are that prepared and that resilient. That's why we are still on the process of improving, enhancing, and even totally developing a resilient country. So that's for me as DRRMO of the province of Capiz.
Thank you, Miss Judy. How about Karen of Disaster Busters naman po?
For me, I think as a comms person then, I think we need to improve yung ways how we communicate risks. Actually, that's the rationale behind Disaster Busters. It started last year then. Actually, many years ago, but the nag-trigger was Typhoon Rolly and Typhoon Ulysses last year. We felt na hindi understandable yung mga terms for sa amin, especially. Lalo na siguro sa communities, syempre, no? And also, based from experience, I was part of the Typhoon Yolanda response in 2013. And yung storm surge, personally, hindi ko siya alam. And the same feedback naman from the community. So I think that's something we need to address, yung how we communicate risks. Because for us, for Disaster Busters, jargons hurt the poor. So we really need to improve on that aspect.
Thank you, Ms. Karen. How about Sir Tong?
Yeah, well, for us, based from experience, coming from Lanao del Sur, as I was the former PDRRM of Lanao del Sur, and here in San Juan City, I think actually maraming kulang, especially sa in reality sa offices doon sa Lanao, most of my colleagues doon kulang pa rin ng equipment, ng capability, manpower. Actually hindi na follow pa rin yung hindi pa rin na follow yung completely yung RA 10121 wherein we put item positions sa itong mga offices, and it's very important kasi especially with the trainings na we give continuous kasi ito our preparation is I think we should think outside of the box, especially with what happened right now dito sa with this pandemic. Actually, what's funny is pati yung role ng DRR in the whole Philippines, kami na rin yung nagta-transport eh. So, first contact, itong mga DRRMO natin, responders, yan, kulang sa training, and that's one, I think, that's one phase where we have to strengthen, no? Yung palakasin talaga yung capability ng manpower, and strengthen rin yung sa community resilience, especially with itong what we're facing right now. Hindi rin pwede kasing dependent masyado sa amin, sa offices namin, kasi darating rin yung time like here in NCR, pag tumama talaga tong big one, which we see ang dami ng signs na it will really happen. Hindi rin namin kakayanin even if we have 60 almost 80 personnel here. Ang hirap so kailangan talaga strengthening rin yung capacity ng volunteers. Volunteerism is very, very important. And yung down the barangays, yung barangay DRRM o DRRMC natin, doon talaga yung maayos natin yun, it would be a lot easier for all of us.
Okay. Thank you, Sir Tong. Sir Tong, you mentioned this Republic Act. What is it again? Republic Act
RA 10121.
10121.
What is that all about po?
It's the creation of itong office namin.
It's the DRRM law po.
Yes.
Okay po.
That's where it all started. 2010 siya nagsimula. Pero hindi pa talaga totally kami empowered So, for here, sa akin, dito sa San Juan, it's completely different. Dito, ang dali. Kasi, aside from having a very supportive mayor, who is very into disaster preparedness rin. Siya rin kasi nung start yung disaster office dito, I think wala pa yung RA, yung law. Meron na dito sa San Juan So he was part of the creation. So mas madali sa akin. So yung trainings like right now, itong pandemic, we still do trainings kasi hindi pwedeng we don't have to. Sa akin kasi it's yes, maraming bawal, kasi yun nga, face to face, etc. Pero kasi tayo yung responders if we don't adapt to this situation, we don't continue studying different tactics in handling this situation, kami rin yung patay. I have people here 3 times na nag-positive. I almost lost 2 nung early on nung nitong COVID. So, yun na naging namin is tuloy-tuloy pa rin. Actually, until November, ang dami namin trainings na naka-line up. Not only for us, pati sa volunteers. Kasi ang strength rin namin in San Juan is our volunteers here. They're very active, very sportive. And sana mapaabot pa namin sa barangay. Yun ang goal namin.
Thank you, Sir Tong. Miss Judy, wanna add to that po?
Yes po. Actually, yung po kasi, yung pinagkaiba po kasi ng DRRM law, unlike other laws, medyo mabilis po yung pagbuo tsaka pag-create ng iba because of the mandate. So for DRRM kasi not too much because it all depends on the political will tsaka priority ng local chief executive. So just like Sir Tong, for San Juan, since it's the priority of the mayor, so sa amin din dito, priority rin siya ng mga governors. Actually, since the DRRM law was passed, meron na po kaming 3 governors. So 3 governors na po yung nagpalit-palit. And with that, we are very thankful na priority din yung DRRM, and that's why we have this office na created tsaka established na rin. But of course, it's not the same with all other offices. Not all municipalities, not all provinces has the support in terms of equipment, in terms of capacity building. Tsaka yung isa po kasi, yung pinakamahirap is the personnel or the manpower complement. Most of those na nagtatrabaho for DRRM are contract of services, job orders, or volunteers, of which we knew na nagsasacrifice every disasters, man-made man yan or natural disaster. So, and as always, we always aim for zero casualty. And it is dependent sa coordination tsaka cooperation ng members of the council, tsaka of course, our responders, and of course, the volunteers. So, isa yan kasi in terms of benefits, yun yung isa eh. Kulang po yung benefits ng ating mga DRRM workers and our responders. As of now, yun yan, sinabi ni Sir Tong, we are on the forefront, tsaka kami yung yung frontliner, the real definition of a frontliner during this pandemic. Ito yung mga responders the transport, yung kahit the border control dito sa amin, we do that. The emergency response, both yung medical, tsaka yung mga trauma cases. So yan po lahat. And even the management of our travelers, mga ROF and OFW. So involved kami lahat dyan. And habang tumatagal, lumalawak yung scope ng mga responsibilities ng DRRM offices. So before, we are focused more on natural disasters. Ngayon, lahat na. Lahat na in terms of, ito nga, pandemic is a health emergency. Even yung Marawi, that's a peace and order. So kumbaga terrorism, lahat pasok na po kami. So yan, ganyan kalawak yung responsibility ng DRRM po dito sa Pilipinas.
Thank you, Ms. Judy. Ms. Karen, nabanggit natin kanina yung importansya, kahalagahan of communication in the disaster risk reduction management. No? So ano nakikita kaya natin na maaari pang yung nag-complement na ginagawa natin ngayon in terms of communication doon sa DRRM law na meron tayo?
Actually, na-mention din ni Tong and Jing yung yung gaps. And yun yung tinatry din ng Disaster Busters tumulong. So we have built this network of young professionals mostly. We also have students. But marami dun sa members din network ay actually working for LGUs from Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. So for the past 4 months, we have rolled out virtual for now, capacity building activities on how they can, we started with yung hazards and risks that they need to understand, because how can you advocate something that you don't understand? So for us, that's really important. And this network then, we try to make DRRM and climate science also more understandable and relatable para sila mismo in their own communities, mas ma-explain nila, kumbaga, yung storm surge or yung earthquake, for example, earthquakes don't kill, pero yung buildings, yung makakapatay sa'yo if you don't follow the building code. Kasi yung hazards, natural hazards, especially, will always be there. So, ang kailangan natin gawin is to work together. Paano ba i-mitigate yung risks ng buong community? Hindi lang ikaw as an individual, kundi yung buong community. Lalo na ngayon, we have yung pandemic. So, sa Disaster Buster, sabi nga namin, surprise is the new norm. That's the mistake we have also to address. Kasi before, sabihin natin, yung sa Yolanda experience ko din na, dati naman kasi hindi naman ganito yung bagyo. So yun yung mistake natin, nagde-depend tayo masyado dun sa past. In fact, ngayon kasi halo-halo na, hindi na lang bagyo. May time pa nga last July, sobrang lakas ng bagyo, tapos may earthquake pa. Na during our session namin yun actually ng Disaster Buster, so naalala namin yun. So yun din, yung hindi lang single scenario kapag mapaplanning tayo for our DRRM na efforts. So, multiple scenario na ngayon. Lalo na ngayong COVID, maraming lessons tayong pwedeng makuha sa response natin.
Thank you, Ms. Karen. It's really nice to hear po na yung approach natin on DRRM, hindi na lang siya nakaasa sa pamahalaan or sa kanilang local government, but talaga nagpo-focus na tayo on community resilience and the importance of communication, which is ginagawa ng ating mga guests ngayon. And hopefully, yung mga nanonood din natin, ma-influensya natin to do that. So my next question po sa ating, to our guest, I know you mentioned this briefly, but what can we learn from the aftermath po of some unfortunate events such as yung Marawi siege, heavy typhoons like Yolanda, and even yung COVID-19 surge natin? Can you cite examples po in your specific locality? I'll start naman po with Sir Tong.
Okay. Well, for Marawi siege, it's a whole new ball game for DRR. Ang daming learning lessons doon. One is yung importance ng communication. That's why actually down lahat itong mga mobile phones, etc. We were so dependent with radios. use rin nung actually ako, I always push for this, yung, kasi pag, actually not only during Marawi siege, in any disaster, yung kuryente, doon down ng kuryente, ang daming brownout, siyempre continuous yung bombing, solar panels, houses that are capable of running their own electric. May mga survivors sa loob, nakakapag-charge, nakaka-communicate kami sa kanila because meron doon may mga maliliit na panels na pang-charge lang ng phone. So yun itself is ang dami na sana I was hoping na ma-implement yan. Kaya before, when I was with province, I was pushing for yung mga DRRM offices namin, sana yung self-sustaining na siya, at least kayang i-power yung communication, yung computer, radio. Another thing is yung trainings. Kasi pagdating ng disaster itself, actually, no matter how prepared you are, kahit kompleto ka ng gamit, pag nandiyan yung disaster, wala. Kanya, it's every man for himself. Like, sa office namin, I think 2 lang kami ang naiwan doon. Kasi syempre, it's the normal thing ang isipin ng mga kasama mo, employee mo, pamilya nila, dahil naririnig mo, pinapatay na doon sa, may namamatay na, may pinupunta na ulo. So, yun, it's very important na yun nga, yung communication rin, especially with other offices, DRRM offices, kasi kailangan mo ng outside na tulong talaga eh. Darating at darating yun eh. And yung volunteers. That's why ngayon, we always, it's very important na we push for training down barangay levels talaga eh. And itong mga bata, itong students, that's what at least before I transferred here, yun yung pinupush namin with our volunteer group, yung ERN, Early Response Network. It's a volunteer group in Lanao na ang goal is ayaw namin maulit yung Marawi siege. Kahit saan kasi ang hirap eh. There are scenes there na up until now, it still haunts me. And ayoko talaga may maka-experience nung ganon. So, aside from that, actually, ang dami. I can't put it all in one pero ang daming lessons, and I think the most important lang talaga is resiliency is the sa community level, kasi dapat tayo, especially ngayon, like example, itong with our situation right now, puno tayo sa mga hospitals. Tayo mismo, mga household, dapat alam nila paano i-cure yung mga sarili nila. With simple, yung basic may sugat, sumakit yung tiyan. Kasi ang hirap na magpumunta sa hospital, lalo na COVID cases, hindi rin makiter ng mga hospital. So we have to adapt with this situation. So that's why information dissemination about all these things is very important, especially sa mga bata. Yung simpleng pag-choke ng bata, paano mo ipat sa likod, dapat alam ng lahat ng household. Kasi it would be easier for us DRRM officers rin, mga rescue teams, kapag lahat capacitated sa ganyan. Support group na lang.
Thank you, Sir Tong. Miss Karen.
For me, one of the main lessons that I learned actually, hindi lang din naman sa Yolanda assignment ko nung 2013 and 2014. Kundi kami rin, yung bahay namin sa Laguna, it's actually flood prone. So sa tingin ko, yung isa sa mga lesson is let's combine nga yung community knowledge with science. Kasi yung napapansin ko when I did interview sa communities, hindi lang sa Tacloban when I was assigned there for a year, kundi sa maraming hazard prone na communities. So yung laging dati naman kasi hindi binabaha, so hindi kami mag-evacuate. So I think it's about time nga na to capacitate yung LGUs natin and combine community knowledge with science. Example, updating ng hazard maps, very important. Actually, one mistake na nangyari sa Tacloban, based doon sa fieldwork namin, is that yung evacuation center nasa tabi ng dagat, di ba ng storm surge, kasi hindi nila na-anticipate na worse pala yung mangyayari. Akala nila the usual storm lang, But then yun, we have to anticipate yung bigger events na we haven't experienced before. So investments sa hazard maps or iba pang early warning systems. So LGU talaga crucial yung role nila. So I hope magkaroon sila ng additional budget sa personnel, sa equipment. So malawak din. Tsaka isa pang lesson that we highlight din sa Disaster Busters, yung application ng multidisciplinary approach. So yung DRRM and climate science, not just for scientists or politicians. So lahat yan, private sector din, we have to explain to them ano ba yung effect if ever magkakaroon ng disaster, paano sila mag-prepare. So yon, yung multidisciplinary approach, we have to consider that in our planning also.
Thanks, Ms. Karen. How about Ms. Judy po in Capiz?
For me, kasi yung isa is this, the time of Yolanda. So yung Yolanda kasi is one of the strongest typhoon na hindi lang po, kasi yung na-highlight was Tacloban. Pero actually, kung ano po yung naging devastation sa Tacloban is just the same with the province of Capiz. And with that, actually, yung pinaka-learnings namin is yung importance talaga ng preparedness. So when, yun nga, nung nag-start yung RA 10121, prior to that, di ba, PDRRM, PDCC, yung Coordinating Council. So when that started, of course, wala pang office nun eh. So pag-start ng office, yung unang ginawa is the orientations, drills, of which yung mga tao hindi pa prepared for that. And they cannot appreciate yung mga ganon that time. But yun nga, hindi lang po tumigil kami yung office. Of course, yung kasama ko dito before actually sa office ng PDRRMO was my husband. So kumbaga, yun lang, sige lang, yung iba hindi naiintindihan, bakit kailangan mag-orientation, bakit kailangan mag-drill, walang pupuntahan yan. And of course, sige lang, hindi lang tumitigil, but during Yolanda, yun yung isa sa mga nag-save for na yung province of Capiz, we just had 72 casualties and na ganun na siya ganun ka strong and maraming nagibang mga bahay, maraming mga kumbaga naapektuhan, pero with that number of casualty for Yolanda to hit us kasi nag-cross talaga siya sa province of Capiz. So that's already an accomplishment and something that the people appreciated after. So with Yolanda, even though it's a disaster, it became an opportunity for us. Opportunity for the people to appreciate the importance ng disaster preparedness tsaka yung presence ng DRRMO. So before lahat ng, kahit yung LGUs, wala yung mga DRRMOs, mostly mga designated, mga slash ba sa mga designation ng mga department heads or ng mga employees. Wala ding equipment, wala ding personnel. So after Yolanda, everybody learned that disaster preparedness or DRRM is a priority na. And of course, after Yolanda, we've also experienced tsaka learned yung sinabi ni Ms. Karen kanina, mas lumakas yung bagyo, mas tumaas yung mga baha, mga ganun po. And of course, isa yon sa naging factor din na lahat na namin ng LGUs ngayon dito sa province of Capiz have DRRMOs, have personnel, have response units. And we are already going down to the community level. So when we started actually the community evacuation drill, meron kaming community evacuation drill prior to Yolanda. So, hindi pa namin ma-convince yung barangay. Yung BDRRMC, hindi namin ma-convince. Very limited lang yung tumatanggap sa amin. But after Yolanda, with all the assistance din, kahit yung mga NGOs, naging isa siya sa naging best practice namin dito, yung simulation exercises namin ng community evacuation drill. So, kumbaga, magsa-start siya sa preparedness up to the response, up to the evacuation hanggang i-terminate yung drill after kumbaga pagbalik na nila sa kanilang mga bahay. So, as of now, most of our barangays have undergone yung community evacuation drill. And pinagpapasalamat din po namin kasi yung yung emergency response team when we started here in the province of Capiz, yung pinaka-partner namin is actually the US Peace Corps. So, kumbaga, when we don't know how to start, kung anong gagawin namin when it became DRRMO already, we requested for a volunteer. And yung volunteer, as I can remember his name, si Sir Bad, yung ginawa po nila sa amin is gumawa siya ng manual for community emergency response team. At yun yung inumpisahan na hanggang ngayon, of course, marami na ring bagong trainings, maraming bagong skills, but with that, kumbaga, it all started what we have become as of now, and kung paano din kami lumaki, not only here in the province, but of course, dito sa region.
Thank you po, Ms. Judy. Nakita natin talaga na napakalaking bagay po yung pagiging ready kasi yung disaster risk reduction, ang kuha ko po sa ating usapan, hindi lang siya kung kailan nag-hit yung disaster. Mas importante talaga yung preparation natin na nag-uugat din sana talaga sa ating communities. That's why meron tayong mga ganitong training po na sinasabi nyo. Naririnig ko po itong salitang ito palagi at nabanggit nyo na rin earlier when we were talking about it. Ano po ba talaga yung konsepto ng resilience? Lagi po siya, it's been thrown around. Every time may disaster, kailangan resilient tayo. We build back better. But what really is the concept of resilience? Let me start with Ms. Karen.
Ako, nainis, I'll be honest, nainis ako kapag, di ba, after or during or after each disaster, bumaha, ika-caption na resilient ang mga Pilipino, tapos nakasmile sa baha. For me, that's not resilience, no? It's about time that we should stop romanticizing resilience and demand for accountability. Kasi ginagamit na excuse lang yung resilience para hindi makita ng public yung gaps sa DRRM. So, yun, sa tingin ko, kasi ang resilience kasi yung kahit may mangyari, babalik ka pa rin sa normal or even better after a disaster. Or sana wag nang pumunta sa disaster kasi may choice naman tayo. Yung disaster kasi hindi naman siya natural eh. So, effect siya ng mga choices natin, ng mga policies natin, or ng lack ng preparation natin for disasters. Lalo na sa Philippines. So, 2019, number 9 tayo sa World Risk Index. Actually, nag-improve na siya in fairness. Kasi nung 2013, 2014, third tayo. I think third tayo, no? So, nag-improve naman siya. Sana mawala na tayo sa top 10 eventually. Iyon, sa tingin ko, ang totoong resilience, yung wala nang mamamatay, wala nang masisirang properties, hindi siya yung pagpo-post sa Facebook nang nakasmell ka sa baha. Ayun, we should demand for accountability and stop romanticizing resilience.
Thank you, Ms. Karen. Ms. Judy, napapatungo ka habang nagsasalita si Ms. Karen. Go ahead po.
Yes po, kasi I agree with Ms. Karen kasi yung sinasabi nga nila, yung na-abuse din po kasi yung yung term na resilience ba? Resilience, resilient, parang kumbaga feeling nila if that's actually masabi natin adaptation, parang yun hanggang doon lang yung nila yung definition nila na resilience. But yung sinabi nga ni Ms. Karen, yung for me, resilience is the combination of the 4 thematic areas ng DRRM Yung kumbaga with all the things that we can do to prevent and mitigate any disaster, with all our preparedness efforts, and of course, yung response capabilities natin, tsaka yung pag-recover and rehabilitate natin in a manner na kumbaga kung before, build back better, ngayon, building back forward, para ganun na. So, kumbaga, it's a combination of that 4 thematic areas. At the same time, yung kumbaga, yung simple, before the simplest definition for me of resilience is, pag nadapa ka, tatayo ka ng nakasmile. Parang ganun lang po yun. But now, kumbaga, it's a different thing. It's more than that. More than that yung sinabi nga ni Ms. Karen, zero casualty, walang damages, walang maapektuhan. But we know here in our country, dahil nga tayo yung isa sa pinaka dinadaanan ng bagyo and all, maraming disaster, pinakamayaman sa disasters. Of course, resilience would be more on adaptation, more on mitigation, and more on standing and looking forward for another hazard na siguro, because nasabi ko nga, ayoko ng disaster So, kumbaga, for another hazard to come, but we are very much ready to face it. So, parang ganun po yung definition ko ng resilience.
Thank you, Ms. Judy. Sir Tong.
Yeah, actually, tumpak yung sinabi nila pareho. Resilience kasi especially coming from yung accountability is a very big word. what happened with Marawi is it's a man-made disaster. And 5 years na, nandiyan pa rin. So I think accountability is very it's mahirap kasi yung given na we as Filipinos are a resilient people. Pero I think we should also back it up with yun nga, being accountable for kasi yung mga ibang actions gawa yan ng tao and well, it's there. Sa akin I can speak the whole day about my angst about yung accountability issue with what happened in Marawi. Pero yun nga kaya nga dapat siguro yan rin yung flaw sa dito with our system is tapos nagagamit sa ibang angle yung pagiging resilient. And siguro for our situation right now, resiliency is best I think it's best described for me kasi pagbangon yan pag natumba and being able to evolve. We evolve with the times, we adapt with the situation, like itong pandemic nga, wala talaga hindi naman kami talaga mga medical pero kami yung nasalang sa 'di ba? Yun yung wala, you can't say no. May kailangan i-pick up, tatawagan talaga yung office niya, kayo yung transport. So that's about it.
Thank you, Sir Tong. We mentioned earlier yung concept of accountability, and we all know that accountability, transparency, and community participation are things that make up governance or good governance in that case. Ano po ba ang role of good governance in disaster risk reduction and management? I'll start with Ms. Judy.
For me, yung role kasi ng good governance, that is looking at the picture of a whole of community approach. So, kumbaga with that, you are looking at the needs of your people, kung ano yung kailangan ng tao, and kung ano yung kailangang gawin para maprotektahan natin yung tao. So, if you have good governance as your priority, for sure, of course, yung DRRM will also be your priority. So, looking at, kumbaga, yung capacity ng iyong LGU or your agency, of course, you will know what you need in your local government unit. So, in terms of good governance, I think kahit saan ka ngayon, kahit sabi nga nila, lahat na lang merong assessment, merong evaluation. At sa lahat na yon, kung titingnan mo, pinakamaraming indicators, yung disaster preparedness. So, DILG man yan, NEDA man yan, OCD man yan, or any other agencies, in terms of development, makikita mo talaga yung disaster preparedness doon. Because as a whole, sayang ang lahat ng mga infrastructures, lahat ng investment ng isang government, lahat ng projects, pag dumaan na kasi si disaster, that you are not prepared. So all of that mawawala kung wala kang hindi mo priority yung DRRM in your LGU. So for me, if you have good governance in your administration, of course, disaster resiliency is a priority.
Thank you, Ms. Judy. Napakalinaw nun. Sir Tong.
Actually, sobrang dino. Wala na akong madagdag. Yeah, well, just to add, actually, it's having a strong, good governance is also having a strong, yan yung backbone backbone in general din ng good governance. Kasi, nandyan lahat Lahat, actually, kasama kami sa lahat ng problema. Ngayon nga, pati nga social problems na rin ng mga tao, pati pag-transport yung mga stranded dito, kasama din kami. So, parang it's a package deal. Good governance and a strong DRRM program, isa lang siya. You cannot have good governance with poor service. Frontline service kasi, actually, if you change DRRM, frontline service ang magandang itawag sa amin dahil kami yung nakaharap sa tao sa baba. Ultimo, I'd like to add rin pala, like nung sa Marawi Siege, wala akong training pero yung pagkuha ng patay, yung kami yun, kami rin ang naglibing, kami rin yung, so ano na siya pasok sa lahat eh. Kaya, yeah, it's
Encompassing talaga.
Opo.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you, Sir Tong. Ms. Karen, ano nga ba ang role ng good governance sa DRR?
For me, I'm speaking as an outsider sa LGU sa government. I'm speaking as a voter, for example. Dito ako sa Pasig ngayon. Pero yun, sa tingin ko, yung good governance, sobrang mahalaga yung pagkakaroon ng holistic and people-centered approach. Kasi ako personally, as a private citizen, hindi ko binabayin yung pasaway narrative. Kung taga-LGU ka, tapos sabihin ng community, ayaw namin mag-evacuate. Sa tingin ko, dapat tingnan nila bakit ayaw nilang mag-evacuate in the first place. Ako, observation ko as an outsider nga sa government or as a former community worker din, many years ago, ayaw nilang mag-evacuate kasi, yun lang yung meron sila. Farmer, meron siyang kalabaw dyan sa labas. Sa atin madali, no? Ako nandito sa urban community, madali sa akin na, okay po, mag-evacuate ako. Pero sa farmer, yun lang yung meron siya. Sobrang daling sabihin na, okay lang yan, kesa naman mamatay ka. Pero for them, you have to understand na yun lang yung meron sila. Pag wala na, example, yung kalabaw niya, sa tingin niya, wala na rin siya. So yun, sana sa good governance, makita din natin yung pag-i-invest din sa infrastructure, for example. Sabi nga ng UN, for every $1 na i-invest natin sa prevention, nakaka-save tayo ng up to $7 sa response. So, para hindi nyo rin mapagod yung DRRM officers natin sa response, no? Kasi kung mag-invest tayo sa prevention pa lang, malaki yung savings na magagamit pa natin sa iba pang basic social services. So, masaya lahat. Hindi lang yung LGU, kundi yung community mismo. So, holistic and people-centered approach sana tayo.
Thank you, Ms. Karen. It's such a cliche po, no, when we say prevention is better than cure, pero that's why it's a cliche because it's true. Yung preparedness, napakahalaga talaga po, no? So we're talking about preparedness, and we know that one of the things in order for a community to be prepared is to capacitate them, no? Yung kakayanan nila. Ano po ba yung mga capacity building efforts or capacity strengthening efforts na kailangan natin i-prioritize sa konsepto po ng DRR? I'll start po kay Sir Tong.
Nako, napakadami. Ang daming from medical, ang dami. Like ngayon, when I started here, kailangan ang mga ambulance operators natin. Ito, hindi ko ito alam sa Lanao del Sur, may mga ambulances kami pero hindi mga EMT, yung crew. I think that's the minimum requirement is kailangan EMT pati yung driver. So that's why we had dito, I requested for training dito sa amin. So now we have, I think, more than 40 na sa team namin dito, our EMTs. All are capable na of, at least, kaya na mag-adapt kami, kaya na lahat, kapag malaking event, pwede kaming basag. We can all do something. Another thing is, like when I mentioned yung pag-evolve. Right now, we started here in San Juan, yung Rescue Task Force, RTF. Kasi ang nangyayari kasi every time may rescue operations, minsan hindi din pwede kami lang yung darating. Kailangan rin nandiyan si PNP, si BFP. Kasi there are other disasters rin waiting to happen. Like during my fire, minsan may nanakawan dyan, may nakaano. So we changed our approach. Tas our trainings now is centered, parang na kami, yun na, RTF. Sabay-sabay na yung pasok. So may PNP, may BFP, may CDRRMO, medics naka-standby. Tas isang direction lang. Kaya series of trainings, we started with H-Tech since, di ba ang problema ngayon is, pandemic, ang daming walang work. Ang daming, maraming nangyayari na beyond our control. So we were preparing for the worst na rin. Worst. At least kaya namin tumugon in case may hold upping, like with what happened in Green Hills.
Right.
Yun nangyari na yun. Wala kaming training na ano. So that's why we have HTEC, High Threat Emergency Care, for our team, and this RTF. Yan, we just have to be continuously evolving with the times. Kasi ang disaster, parang virus din yan eh. Di ba, may iba na naman ngayon. May ibang strain na naman. Ganun din si disaster. May darating na hindi rin natin alam. So we study for everything na lang. Prepare for the worst.
Thanks, Sir Tong. Miss Karen.
Ako, I'm speaking as a co-founder of Disaster Busters. Kami, we chose to focus sa young leaders. Although marami doon embedded talaga sila sa DRRM, mga taga-LGU. Kasi for me, for example, yung youth, kung familiar kayo sa FOMO, so fear of missing out. So gamitin natin siya in a good way. Kasi yung mga, yung youth fellows namin, yung members ng network, mahilig sila mag-post sa Facebook ng kung ano. So ginagamit namin siyang advantage din na post nyo itong mga materials na to. For example, meron kaming ginagawa kaming mga puns or mga relatable na mga pwedeng key messages for the youth na pwede nilang ikalat, gawing viral, for example. Meron kaming quiz nga last time, Myth Universe. So yung myth, MITH, yung mga myth about disasters. Example, may myth before na pag babae yung name ng bagyo, mas malakas siya. So, in-explain namin sa social media cards namin na hindi siya totoo, tapos may explanation lang. And then, minsan may mga incentives kami na giveaway na pag nasagot niyo yung tanong na to, may premyo kayo. Tapos yon, since ipopost siya ng mga fellows namin, mas maraming makakita nung information na gusto namin ikalat. Tapos, we're also working on a toolkit. Maybe I can contact Jing and Tong after. Kasi yung toolkit actually, so, parang sinasummarize niya lahat ng activities ng Disaster Busters na pwede nilang gawin sa community. If may mga youth organizations or volunteers sila, pwede nilang gamitin yon. At tapos we can help them paano ilagay sa context nila yung activities. Kasi hindi lang English, we're working sa Tagalog din and sa Bisaya na version. Kasi hindi lang, yun yung isa ding aspect ng DRRM na gusto namin. Kasi kailangan i-consider din natin yung language barriers din. Mas madali kasi lang maintindihan kung relatable sa kanila yung mga salitang ginagamit natin. So yun lang kami, we chose na mag-focus sa understanding risks and hazards. Kasi if you don't know the problem, how can you solve the problem?
Right.
So yun yung main goal ng Disaster Busters talaga. So yun yung ginagawa naming, kumbaga, army, parang BTS. So ang goal namin actually, maging popular ang DRRM like K-pop or K-drama na pag-uusapan siya every day.
Yeah. Kasi maaari mangyari ang disaster anytime, kaya dapat alam natin ang ating gagawin at naintindihan po natin siya. Miss Judy.
Yes po, in terms of capacity building, yun nga sabi ni Sir Tong, yung kasi yung DRRM is evolving siya. So depende siya sa mga nangyayari ba sa araw-araw. Actually, when we started, yung pinakauna nga sa amin is, yung pinaka-famous lang noon, yung WASAR. Yun lang, nag-WASAR kami. Then from the WASAR, marami nang pumasok na different trainings, capacity building. And for now, actually, yung kailangan not only for us, but of course, up to all LGUs, even yung mga agencies, in terms of disaster management, pinaka-importante. Kasi nga, ngayon hindi lang isang hazard kasi yung yung nangyayari sa atin, minsan nagsasabay-sabay na. So very important, of course, the management of the Emergency Operations Center, yung incident command system natin. That's for management type of the DRRM, yung Ardana natin, PDNA natin, mga ganyan po. And in terms of skills, of course, pinaka-importante kasi we are dealing with the lives of the people. Yung yung search and rescue na training. So, WASAR, Swiftwater, MOSAR, so high angle, mga ganyan po in terms of skills of our responders para sa mga rescue operations natin. At syempre, yung pinaka-importante for me is for the information tsaka yung capacity to go down up to the grassroots. So, yung lahat ng sectors ba na maabot, yan yung pinaka-importante, which I appreciate na lately. Not only kasi dito sa amin, sabi ko kanina, we started with orientations. These orientations are being done free. And kumbaga kami yung pumupunta dun sa area with all the speakers. Meron kasi kaming tinatawag na speakers bureau. yung composition nun, nandiyan si Pag-asa, nandiyan si FIVOX, yung Bureau of Fire, nandiyan yung sa Emergency Communications, tsaka kami, and other agencies. Kahit DILG, binibitbit namin yan para diretso hanggang sa barangays, hanggang sa grassroots or sa mga communities. So we appreciate na lately, parang nakita namin that the OCD is already having that kind of capacity building. Yung DRRM for different sectors nila. Kung minsan, nagta-target na sila ng fisher folks, farmers, youth, na parang ganun po. So, kahit ganyan lang siya, very short na capacity building, if yung meat ba ng information, tsaka yung skills will be given to each and everyone. Pagdating ng disaster, we know already what to do, where to go, and of course, what to prepare. So, mga ganun lang po. Kasi as of now, ito, like the pandemic, hindi naman tayo lahat prepared for this pandemic. We know that. And kung titingnan natin yung management natin, nag-i-evolve siya every now and then. Kung minsan, magpapalabas ng ganitong resolution na ganito yung management, bukas iba na naman. So mga ganun ba? Everything is evolving, everything is changing, yun nga, constancy change, and we are very flexible on that. Flexible because we know that in every situation there is always a corresponding na response action that we must do. So kailangan lahat ng yan meron po tayong capacity tsaka capability po sa DRRM.
Thank you po, Ms. Judy. Naririnig ko sa ating usapan na napakahalaga talaga na ibaba natin sa grassroots at ang daming changes na nangyayari. Hindi natin masabi kung kailan magsa-strike ang disaster. Kaya dapat kung sino yung nasa grassroots, sino yung pinakahanda. Kasi sila, tama po, no? Sila yung pinaka-na-apektuhan. Sila yung wala masyadong kakayanan na bumangon agad-agad in terms of yung socio-economic aspect, no, or kakayanan nila. So kailangan talaga mag-focus tayo sa kakayanan ng community. So we mentioned po kanina, no, na gaps din natin, kailangan natin ng manpower, ang disaster busters nagta-target ng youth. Ano po ba yung mga kailangan or kaalaman para po maging parte ng isang DRR office? Ano po ba siya? What do we need or courses to take to be a person na ang karera ay nasa DRR? Let's start with Ms. Judy.
For you to be in DRRM, actually, ano siya, ma'am? Depende din siya sa capacity mo. First naman, kasi if you are into DRRM as officer, ibig sabihin you're into technical expertise tsaka yung management. Of course, alam naman natin kailangan meron kang educational capacity. So, graduate ka and all. And then, of course, the trainings. So may mga very minimum trainings. Pero syempre alam natin as time goes by, kailangan malaman mo rin lahat. So you have also to capacitate yourself with the trainings being given by national government agencies and of course your LGU. But for our responders, very important lang naman po kasi dyan, aside from the very minimum educational requirement, is yung attitude. Yun yung pinaka-importante for me. For me, pinaka-importante kasi is the attitude if you are into DRRM. Kasi pag nasa DRRM office ka, hindi po siya katulad ng ibang office. So you cannot join DRRM office na kailangan 8 to 5 ka lang, hindi yan pwede. Kailangan, if you are into it, you are ready to give your time, your effort, and all your energy. Kasi pag merong bagyo, hindi pwede na hindi ka mag 24/7. Kahit na admin yung trabaho mo. Kasi meron kang emergency operations center na kapag mini-maintain 24/7. If you are a responder, hindi rin normal yung duty ng responder na 8 hours a day or shifting na 12 hours a day. You will expect you will be giving your time more than that. Dito sa amin, we are having it 24/7, one day duty, 2 days off. So kumbaga, if you will count the number of hours that you will render your duty, that's more than the required number of hours ng isang empleyado na dapat i-render sa isang opisina. And you cannot expect that you will have overtime pay or any other benefits. So parang volunteer ka pa rin. So that's why sabi ko nga, the skills can be learned kasi you can be trained, And you can have it as habang nandyan ka sa office na yan. And we always welcome that. But what is more important is the attitude that you're going into the DRRM office, of which all aspects in terms of preparedness, in terms of response, tsaka responsibilities, dapat open ka kasi flexible. Marami kang magiging trabaho and hindi lang hindi lang rescue operation, response operations ang gagawin mo, kundi marami pang iba. So expect the worst and always, of course, yung pinaka-importante, as long as you are safe with what you do. Ganun na po yun.
Thank you. Miss Karen?
Ako, yung Disaster Busters kasi, just sa background, siya, nag-start talaga siya. Volunteers lang kami lahat. We all have our full-time jobs. So, di ba, imagine, may time pa rin naman kami to volunteer. Tapos, just a backstory lang din. Actually, yung idea nung gusto naming network, nag-start pa siya 2016, I think. I was 19 years old then. Tapos, ang meron lang kami Manila paper, pentel pen, tapos 20 pesos pamasahe sa jeep. Tapos, nag-assist kami sa training ng hazard mapping. Manual, no? Sa Manila paper. So, imagine if yung mga youth organizations natin na yung mga gusto, example, magtayo ng kanilang version ng Disaster Busters, may enough tools then and resources na i-implement yung projects nila, mas malaki yung impact ng mga youth organizations sa Philippines. So, yung burden, hindi lang sa LGUs, hindi lang sa national government. Pero yung marami kasing willing talaga, nagulat actually kami nung nag-call for applications kami sa Disaster Busters. 200 plus yung nag-apply, but we can only accommodate 60. So, overwhelming yung response kahit short lang yung application period. So, sa tingin ko, yung Disaster Busters kasi, we're trying to have, promotion. Sa Saturday kasi, meron kaming event, Pitch Perfect. O, di ba? Very millennial. So, we're trying to make DRRM relatable. So, Pitch Perfect, yung webinar series kasi namin, ayaw namin ng webinar na ipopost mo lang sa Facebook, may selfie ka, tapos screenshot ng speakers para lang mapagyabang sa Facebook friends mo. So, we want solutions, no? So, yun yung final output nila, actually, yung Pitch Perfect. Meron i-connect namin sila sa potential funders of their solutions na pitch nila sa amin before. Tapos sa Saturday yung parang final event na i-pitch dun sa potential donors yung solutions nila. So sa amin yon, kami mga volunteers kami. So imagine, I'm sure marami pang gustong tumulong para yung kumbaga yung burden hindi lang sa LGUs natin na frontliners na hindi nga lang sa baha or sa earthquake, pati nga yung pandemic and yung maraming mga human-induced na disaster, hazards din na we have to address. Ayun, for me, sobrang important yun na i-connect mo kung saan may tools and resources, yung mga gustong maging part din ng change na gusto natin.
Thank you, Ms. Karen. Sir Tong?
Yeah, actually, nasabi rin ni Ma'am Jing kanina, it's very important yung attitude. No? Pero another thing is I think, pinaka-key ingredient is to have the heart for this job. If you're very passionate about helping people, this is, for me, this is the best job ever kasi, ang sarap ng feeling every time you save a life. It's very priceless. And tama si Ma'am Jing, 24/7 wala talaga tong fixed na time. Kaya nga pati kahit dito sa pandemic, wala rin kaming New Year's pala, Christmas break, New Year's, we're here. Same with our other frontliners, no? Kaya kailangan talaga matibay kayo. And you really have to have the heart in doing this kind of work. Kasi ang dami mo ring sinasacrifice time with your family, kids. Before issue yan sa amin dahil nasalanaw ako, yung family ko nandito. Tapos ngayon, nandito na naman ako. Nai-eat up pa rin yung oras ko sa office. I go home 8, 9 sometimes. I go to office early in the morning. Kasi sa akin kasi ang hirap especially being the head of the department. Anything that happens, lumakas lang yung hangin ng konti, kailangan alam mo yung data. Kasi tatanungin, lalo na si boss, kailangan alam ko lahat. Kaya inaaral ko. Then meron kaming Viber group, chine-check nila. I have to update lahat nung nangyayari. Kapag may incoming na typhoon, mag-set up na kami kaagad. Advance, unahan mo muna yung evacuation center, kailangan ready. So, it is a very hard work. It's not really for everyone.
Yes.
Ito, hindi kasi siya simpleng desk job. And kahit na office work ka lang sa admin ka lang dito, darating yun yung time, lalabas ka sa field pag nagkakakulangan na tao or may na-injure, may nawala sa inyo. Kaya sa akin, if you don't have the heart for this work, mahirap, hindi ka tatagal.
Thank you, Sir Tong. Puso talaga, napakahalaga. It's a humanitarian kasi itong klase ng trabaho, puso talaga yung attitude mo, yung talagang kailangan mo sa ganitong klaseng trabaho. At salamat po, yung mga kagaya niyo po talaga, alam natin na may puso, no? Na para sa trabahong ito, para sa ating taong bayan po, no? Magpasa po tayo, let's read some comments po from our Facebook viewers. We have a comment here from Xavier Solda. Sabi niya po, good job, Miss Karen, Kuya Tong, and Miss J. Alright, we also have another comment from Speed Pelaez. Sabi niya po, congratulations DRRM warriors, saludo ako sa inyo. We have a question po from Xavier Solda. Question niya is, as DRRM practitioners, what is your view on engaging the persons deprived of liberty behind bars in disaster preparedness? I'll repeat po. As DRRM practitioners, what is your view on engaging the persons deprived of liberty behind bars in disaster preparedness? Who wants to take on the question po? Who wants to answer first? Sir Tong.
Ginugil ko muna yung sagot ko. Well, actually, I think as long as it does not, it must not prevent us from teaching and engaging with people na, yes, they're behind bars, pero yun nga, the context of being a humanitarian office, it is practically a humanitarian office. Kailangan turuan rin natin, kahit yung basic stuff lang. Like, at least kaya niyang tulungan yung sarili niya in case may mangyari sa kanya, like tamaan ng heart attack, etc., may bleeding. So it must not be an obstacle in engaging with people behind bars.
Opo. So across all walks of life,
basta
lahat
buhay,
i-engage
basta
namin.
Buhay, turuan.
Tulungan. Napakaganda. Miss Judy, Miss Karen?
Yes po. Actually, dito po sa amin, dito sa Capiz, we've been involving yung mga PDLs natin. We've conducted disaster preparedness orientation po sa kanila, even the first aid training, meron po. Ano po kasi siya, we usually give them that opportunity kasi we know naman, yun nga, let's remember yung sa Yolanda, pati kasi sila affected eh. Yeah. So, during the time of Yolanda, nung na-damage po yung some of the portions ng prison, sila pong nandun. So, if wala pong, hindi po natin sila marerespondehan agad if they need some help because very busy na tayo pag may massive na disaster. We are very busy responding to other emergencies. So, yan nga, yung sinasabi natin, yung pinaka-importante kasi yung first responder will always be a member of your family. So, yun po yun. And that's why nga dito po sa amin, I would like to share, isa sa pinaka-priority namin is that before any operation, make sure that all your members of your family, sa lahat ng staff po namin, and even our responders, that your family are safe and they are also prepared. So, kumbaga, if very, very, like for example, mayroong paparating na bagyo, sinisigurado muna kasi lahat sila, of course, they will be reporting to duty and they will be on standby or they will be deployed. So, make sure that all your family members have the food or kung kailangan nila mag-evacuate na agad sila or they have to prepare kung yung bahay nila and all the needs na mag-worst man yung scenario, we know that they are safe and that you as responder is already prepared to respond to others. So parang yun po. So that's just the same for those PDLs na kasi nandun nga sila nandun lang sila nakakulong and hindi sila makalabas or makapunta sa evacuation center. If they know that kung mayroong man malakas na bagyo at hindi safe yung area nila, So meron din sila specific area that they can go. Parang ngayong pandemic din, 'di ba? They are also required to have their isolation area. So parang ganoon lang po siya. And hindi siya hindrance that they are PDLs that they will not be involved. So ganun po siya.
Thank you. Ms. Karen, baka may dagdag po tayo.
Oh, just to add, yun, share ko lang yung Disaster Busters, may session kami previously, no? Yung title niya, Sana All to Sama All. So kung familiar tayo sa hashtags ng mga millennials, yung Sana All nilang hashtag, ginawa namin Sama All. Kasi we're also promoting inclusive DRRM. So when we say inclusive, hindi lang ito yung naka-wheelchair. Pag inclusive, lahat talaga LGBT, persons with disabilities, and hindi lang yung physically impaired, maraming mental illness, and also for PDL, this is my personal stand. Yung PDL kasi, hindi naman, kahit pa lalo na sila na hindi pa naman talaga guilty, and kahit pa sabihin guilty, no, human life pa rin ito na we have to save. DRRM should be inclusive. Lahat, lalo yung vulnerable, no, including yung PDL. That's my stand. I'm not familiar sa efforts ng mga government sa PDL, but yun, yung personal stand ko, they should also be included sa DRRM natin.
We should always save a life, no? Tama.
Diba? Sama all nga sabi ng Disaster Busters. Hindi lang sana all. So, sama all lagi ang call ng Disaster Busters.
Yes. Thank you po. We have a question po from Speed Pelaez. We talked about family kanina and sometimes we don't have time for them. No? Ang question po ni Speed, may question na po ako sa DRRM warriors natin. May time pa po ba kayo sa family nyo? Sir Tong.
Yeah, meron naman. Pero minsan yan ang napag-aawayan namin dahil minsan Saturday, Sundays, bigla kong I have to go sa office. Yun na nga lang yung time namin. Pero wala it's your duty. It's your mandate rin. And I cannot just, hindi ko rin pwede iwan lang yung mga tao ko. Sometimes kasi I believe na to lead an office, you have to you have to be there in the forefront, like pati sa COVID response. Sumasama ako sa pagkuha ng patients, lalo na pag ubos na kami ng mga transport officers. So there kasi your people will see na pare-pareho kayo and sinasabayan mo sila. It's not just me giving the instructions na gawin nyo to. And para rin mas maintindihan ko, like yung pag-chart, why napaka-important yung pag-chart ng patient para pagdating sa hospital, alam na ni doktor anong gagawin niya. It will lessen the time na isa mag-assess pa sila. Yun yung problem namin before sa Lanao. Pero dito natutunan ko dito ang galing. Actually, ang galing ng team ko. I am very proud of my team here in San Juan. I also learned a lot from them. Iba yung drive nila, ang galing sa medical. Yun yung weakness namin doon sa ano. Pero we train. I think we'll be going rin sa Lanao del Sur soon para i-train naman yung mga DRRMs doon. Kasi parang malaking pamilya to ng mga DRRMOs lahat. Actually, I'm glad na meet ko rin dito sila, ma'am. Kasi there are situations rin na na like parang last month yata yun, may tinawag sa akin, mother ng kaibigan ko. Pero nandun siya sa ibang area. Hindi nila makontak, hindi mapapuntahan sa hospital. Ang nangyari, since DRM to DRM, tinawagan ko na lang yung head ng office, I introduced myself, na-facilitate rin kaagad yung nabigay ko rin yung mga needed data, yung oxygen level, etc. So, yun. That's why communication is very important rin sa amin sa work namin. Kasi yan ang yung that's what binds us all Kasi in the event may mangyari sa mga kapit cities namin, municipios, darating rin kami. Kasi we expect them also to be here pag kailangan namin sila.
Right. Opo. Thank you. Ms. Karen, may time ka pa ba?
May time pa naman ako sa mga aso ko. Hindi mo kasing aso ko. So, yun lang. Hindi na kasi ako sa humanitarian work. Before, so sobrang nakaka-relate ako kay Jing at Tong. Kasi before, nung sa Yolanda response, grabe talaga yung demand. As in, breakfast ka sa Tacloban, magla-lunch ka sa Cebu, tapos may meeting ka sa Manila after. Yes. So, sa plane ka na lang magsusulat ng report na kailangan mo siyang i-submit within the day. So, sobrang saludo talaga ako sa mga, talaga, yung full-time work yun. Ngayon kasi mas sa volunteer na ako na side. Ayun, factor na I have bills to pay. Sorry. Kaya dapat ako personally ina-advocate ko na higher paid din talaga doon sa mga involved sa DRRM. And yung additional kumbaga manpower para pag kailangan mag-leave nung isa, hindi naman siya ipapatawag agad-agad. So, ako dapat more financing din sa ating DRRM.
Or kahit pa paano naman, may time naman sa family, di ba? Parang shifting tayo, di ba? Tama yan. Thank you, Miss Karen. Miss Judy.
Ma'am, I'll take this question personally, ha? Kasi
Opo.
yung nagtatanong kung nahalata mo, pareho kami ng apelyido. Yeah, kasi actually is my roommate. And actually, siya yung my first love sa DRRM. Actually, hindi ako. Siya po. And to share with everyone, when he started kasi, I was the one questioning him na wala siyang time sa akin at saka sa family.
Right.
So, but he answered me,
Very
sabi niya,
personal pala ito.
darating yung time na itong ginagawa ko, you will be appreciating this and darating din yung time na ikaw mismo maiintindihan mo kung bakit. So, actually, nangyari na po. Nag-exchange kami. Siya yung lumabas, ako yung nandito. And, yun nga, not only for me, but also for all those na nasa DRRMO. Usual answer, sabi nga ni Sir Tom kanina, wala. Kasi, most of your time, if you have the heart, yung sinabi ni Sir Tom kanina na, if you have the heart, lahat kasi bibigay mo eh. Yung oras mo, yung energy mo, yung pera mo, lahat. As long as you see there is a need, ibibigay mo siya. But again, dumating din sa point na yung anak mo magtatanong na sa'yo, anong klaseng trabaho yan?
Yes.
Bakit? Wala ka ng time sa amin. So what we did, since we both, as husband and wife, we both know yung nature ng trabaho, we involve our family. So, yung mga bata, they already know na pag lumalakas yung hangin, lumalakas yung ulan, ay may work si mommy. Para ganon. So, and then, some of our activities, especially yung mga sinasabi ko na orientations, kahit yung mga tree growing, we already involve them. So, pati sila, they already DRRM warriors. They already know how to be prepared, ano yung kailangan gamitin, and yung basic information kahit sila na nga yung nagiging partner rin ng mga speakers namin sa mga kaklase nila sa school nila. So I mean for us to solve the question on the time with the family, we try to involve them. So of course yan yung sacrifices kasi if you are in DRRM. Yung sinabi nga ni Sir Tong kanina, hindi lahat ng oras mo kasi hindi alam kung kailan yung kailangan mong mag-serve, magresponde, or what time you will accept the call. Any time of the day, kahit anong oras yan sa gabi, kahit natutulog ka, pag tinawagan ka dahil may emergency, you have to answer that and you have to respond. So yun po siya. So, but yun nga, as to time with the family, we try to make it happen in any way. Kaya na lang po siya.
Talagang yung buong pamilya na yung naging DRRM warriors, sinasabi nga natin na we need to engage sa community and the family is the basic unit of the community. So sama-sama tayo dito sa pagiging DRRM warrior natin. May comment po tayo mula kay Xavier Solda. Sabi niya, #sama all, maraming alagang aso. Ayun. And we have another last question po from our audience. Mula po kay Avicennia Alba. The question is, doon po sa people-centric approach na nabanggit kanina ni Ms. Karen, what would be a sample approach para doon po sa mga ayaw lumikas na farmer who cannot leave their carabaos? Which actually we saw po dito sa Maring, marami pong namatay na mga carabaos and syempre naapektuhan po talaga yung mga farmers natin. So what can we do about it po kaya? I'll start with Ms. Karen.
Oo, yung na-mention ko yun, sorry, hindi ko nadagdagan na, for example,
Okay
yun nga yung investment natin sa infrastructure, yung evacuation center na hindi lang schools, kumbaga totoong evacuation center na may provision din for animals. Bawa ako, 5 aso ko. Kapag binaha kami, hindi ko sila iiwan. Kailangan dalhin ko lahat. So, sana yung evacuation center, may provision din for pets. Ginawa naman siya sa Bicol eh. So, kailangan lang i-replicate. I forgot saan exactly sa Bicol, pero meron eh, di ba? So, yun, kailangan lang nating i-replicate yung good practices ng other LGUs or even other countries na may same context sa atin. So, yun lang. Kung mag-i-invest nga tayo sa mga ganong infrastructure, wala na sanang mamamatay na kababayan natin. So, yun. Yun talaga, investment din for disaster resilient infrastructure.
Thank you, Ms. Karen. Ms. Judy, maybe you can add to that po.
Yes po. Actually, we have been doing that sa community evacuation drills namin. Kasi our title is actually Inclusive Community Evacuation Drills, of which we involve yung mga senior citizen natin, yung mga PWD natin, yung children, and also yung animals natin. So, kumbaga, dito, since syempre probinsya kami, yung sinasabi ni Miss Karen na yung evacuation center na standard, so we don't have much of that. Meron pong mga existing na mga evacuation centers na sinasabi natin na standard, and then yung the usual kahit yung mga gymnasiums or any barangay facilities sa isang LGU. But still we do use yung schools. But syempre with that, malawak din kasi yung barangay eh. As long as you will know kung saan yung safe area. So ginawa po siya namin. For those na nanonood, they can actually look at our PDRM account, yung sa Facebook account namin. Makikita nila dyan, meron kaming mga community evacuation drills na meron, binibitbit nila yung aso nila, yung mga manok nila, yung mga baboy nila. So, mas maganda po siya because you can encourage kasi yung mga tao. Kasi, para sa kanila kasi, sinabi ni Miss Karen kanina, pag mawala kasi yan, aside sa economic impact sa kanila, dahil nga syempre yung presyo niyan, pinaghirapan nilang alagaan. Yung aso, hindi mo naman mabebenta si aso, pero yung yung connection, yung love mo, yung care mo sa aso, kumbaga nagiging best friend mo na siya. And in terms of mental health, that can help, lalo na pag takot ka. So, kumbaga, you can convince them to evacuate if they know that they are also safe there. Tsaka natutin yung kumbaga pamilya nila yan eh. Pamilya nila yung mga alaga nila.
Thank you, Ms. Judy. Sir Tong.
Okay. Well, I think the good thing about it is wala kaming kalabaw dito sa city. Pero kidding aside, I think dapat I think we should have one standard facility talaga na which would cater to that. And merong ako nakita before sa Japan, ang mga di ba sila among sa atin sa buong mundo, sila yung pinaka prone sa disaster sa baha, earthquake, etc. Sa kanila is their evacuation center is parang car park na pati yung pagpunta mo hindi stairs puro siya parang daanan ng kotse kasi it's more easier for people, even animals, na umakyat. Siguro if we have a standard set na ganyan na klaseng it would solve these problems kasi understandable yan sa hirap ng buhay dyan, yan ang buhay nila yung itong mga animals. So yun, sana we magkaroon dito sa ng specific design for that, and kung pwede i-fund ng national government sa mga flood-prone, mga disaster-prone areas para tulong na rin sa LGUs. Kasi maliit rin naman hindi rin naman talaga kakayanin ng LGU kung lahat sa kanila. Kailangan pa rin, supportahan pa rin ng national government.
Definitely. Thank you po, Sir Tong. Before we end our discussion po, yung ating kwentuhan, any last message po or panawagan sa ating po mga manonood dito po sa ating napag-usapan on disaster risk reduction management? I'll start with Ms. Karen.
Ako, for me, favorite kasi namin yung hashtag na sama all sa disaster busters. So, sana kapag may DRRM na plans tayo, naging inclusive tayo, hindi lang dun sa lagi natin nakikita. Kumbaga sabi namin, gawin natin visible yung invisible. Yung iba kasi may mga struggles na hindi tayo aware. Meron, yung sa ibang sessions namin, meron kaming Filipino Sign Language interpreters, and then i-curate namin yung content na pwede namin ibigay sa ibang groups na gustong mag-focus sa sa mga trainings on DRRM for the deaf community, for example. So, yun lang. Kung may iwan kasi, parang hindi talaga magiging resilient yung Philippines. Kumbaga, pwedeng yung mayayaman lang, yung mga nakatira sa condo. So, sana, for me, leave no one behind pagdating sa DRRM. Ayun lang. Sama all. Hashtag
Sama all, yes. Thank you, Miss Karen. Sir Tong?
Well, sa akin, with everything that's happening right now, let's stay positive. Positive in the sense na huwag tayo ma-down, kasi ang daming situation natin ngayon, ang daming walang work, ang daming natumbang negosyo, and we continuously learn. We have to do something about it also. Kasi kung walang mangyari, it is only us who can help ourselves and our families. So, yun, continuous learning. Ito what we teach sa DRR, sana intindihin rin pag kahit na nasa bahay, yung para at least mabawasan yung mga anxiety sa house. Minsan may biglang sinipon o may biglang hindi makaamoy, inisip nila COVID ka agad pero iba pala. So just read, lahat naman nasa internet, nasa and kung may other questions pa, our hotline is always open here in San Juan City. 24/7 kami dito. Just like any other DRRM office. Rest assured, we will continue to do our work habang nandito kami. And yun, positive lang na we will overcome this.
Thank you, Sir Tong. Miss Judy?
Yes, for me, I think what I want to say is that yung pinaka-importante kasi in terms of promoting disaster resiliency is the disaster preparedness. So let's invest more on disaster preparedness and prevention for us to have lesser response. So yun lang naman po yun And very important is that lahat po tayo ay kailangan magtulong-tulong for us to be totally prepared for any disaster. So hindi lang po kami sa local government unit, hindi lang po yung mga rescuers natin and volunteers, it all involves all of us in the community. So kumbaga, we can totally claim that we are resilient here in our country, the Philippines, if all of us will be helping each other in promoting disaster resiliency sa ating mga pamilya at sa ating mga sarili. Yun lang naman po.
Maraming salamat. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experiences with us today. We do appreciate your time po. Once again, thank you, Ms. Karen Lapitan, Mr. Tong, Pacasum, and Ms. Judy Pelaez. Ang dami po naming natutunan, napakayabong ng ating naging discussion. Thank you so much at mag-iingat po kayo. Saludo po kami sa inyong lahat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much po.
Thank you po. Yung nga po, we heard that yung napakayabong na discussion natin, we keep on hearing resiliency and it's a term that we easily throw every time there's a disaster. But apparently, there's something deeper into that. We have to be prepared. And when we say we have to be prepared, we also have to involve not only the local government, but also the national government, but most especially the community because doon po talaga kailangan nagsisimula yung kaalaman, yung kahandaan upang tayo maabot natin yung pagiging isang resilient at handang klase ng Pilipinas para matugunan natin yung mga pangangailangan every time tayo ay may disaster. Muli, maraming salamat po sa ating mga naging guests, Ms. Karen Lapitan, Mr. Tong Pacasum, and Ms. Judy Pelaez. And I really hope na ang ating audience po ay lalo pang ginanahan na magkaroon ng ideya at magkaroon ng kaalaman on DRRM. And hopefully, we can gain more DRRM professionals dito sa ating session na ito. Okay, now that we've gained more insights about disaster preparedness, mitigation, and management, let's get to know some allies in this cause. Today, we're going to get to know an organization that promotes disaster risk awareness and preparedness in the Philippines. That's here on The Spotlight. All right. Earthshaker is an organization which aims to raise the appreciation of earth sciences of the public and empower citizens to make science-based decisions. Aside from educational discussions, Earthshaker comes up with fun and engaging infographics and knowledge materials on social media that inform and educate their followers on disaster preparedness, among others. To see these materials, you may follow them on Facebook and Twitter. It's at EarthshakerPH, and on Instagram, it's at Earthshaker_PH. Another initiative that you may support is Disaster Busters, co-founded by our guest today, Ms. Karen Lapitan. Disaster Busters seek to empower young leaders of resilience in the Philippines. They host webinars and workshops on themes such as turning ideas into actions, effectively communicating risk, and DRRM inclusivity, among others. Disaster Busters is on Facebook. It's at Disaster Busters PH. And now, that's it for our featured organizations this episode. And now that you know who you may work with if you're interested in this advocacy, and I hope you are, what are we going to do next? Let's learn more and make real impact. Find out what's next. Want to help address climate change? You may start with simple actions such as sharing any plastic collection point that you know of through Rappler's #PlasticDropPH campaign. The initiative aims to crowdsource information on plastic collection points across the country and place it in a map so anyone would know where they may drop their collected plastic waste at home, school, workplace, or community. You may submit that information through the link flashed on your screen. While some plastics may be recycled, please bear in mind that a great deal of plastic waste still end up in seas and landfills and remain in the ecosystem in some form throughout our lifetime. So it's always better to minimize the use of single-use plastics and call on different stakeholders to stop its use as well. Again, to participate, you may send information through the link and follow #PlasticDropPH on social media for updates. And that's it, chatmates. Thank you for joining us today. And if you found our chat informative or at least thought-provoking or interesting at the very least, then share our live stream so more people can watch our chat. Use our hashtags #ChatUp and #RealTalkRealImpact. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's at Quarantalk Media. And please follow us on Facebook for more updates and exciting programs. It's at Quarantalk Media. And we're also on Twitter. It's at Quarantalk Media. I am Germaine Jalandoni de Ruña. Connect with me online. You may check out my different social media accounts on the screen there. For Twitter, it's at Germaine J. de Runa. For Instagram, it's at Germaine Jalandoni de Runa. And on Facebook, it's Germaine Jalandoni de Runa. And join me again in the next couple of weeks for another Real Talk here on #ChatUp, Real Talk, Real Impact. Good night, everyone.